What do you do when the woman who raised your husband becomes the reason you're crying every night? This is the story of Amara, wife trapped between love and pain, the mother-in-law who made her life a living hell. But one day, something happened. Something she didn't see coming. You see, when Amara said, "I do," she thought she was walking into a life of peace, love, and partnership. But what she didn't know was that she wasn't just marrying a man, she was also walking into a war she never signed up for. In her own husband's house, she became a stranger. His mother, her mother-in-law, made it her mission to break her spirit. And the man she loved, he stood there and watched. Every insult, every tear, every night, Amara cried silently, begging for just a little bit of kindness. He chose silence. But Amara, she wasn't weak. She held on. She fought quietly until one day she had enough. What happened next will shake you, because this isn't just a story of pain, it's a story of courage, of healing, and of a woman who had to lose everything just to find herself again. So before we begin, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share the story with someone who needs it. Because someone out there might be living this same truth, and they need to know they are not alone. Now, sit back. Amara smiled gently as she placed the last throw pillow on the couch. Their small home in Enugu wasn't perfect, but to her it was beautiful because every piece of it had a memory, a shared moment, a dream. She and her husband, Chuka, had only been married for 8 months. And though money was tight, their hearts felt full. Or so she thought. But today, something was about to change. Chuka walked in, dragging a big suitcase. Behind him was his mother, Mama Chuka. Amara stood up quickly, surprised. "Good afternoon, Mama," Amara said, bowing slightly in respect. Mama Chuka didn't smile. She looked around the house and muttered, "So this is where my son lives now, with this girl." Chuka laughed awkwardly. "Mama, I told you already Amara takes care of me. She's doing her best." Amara kept smiling, but her heart was not at peace. From that moment, she knew her life was about to change. It didn't take long before Amara started to feel like a stranger in her own home. Mama Chuka criticized everything she did. If she cooked, Mama would say the food was tasteless. If she cleaned, Mama would say she left dirt behind. If she rested, Mama would call her lazy. One morning, Amara served breakfast jam and egg sauce. Mama Chuka took one bite, spat it out, and said, "This is what you feed my son? You want to kill him with pepper?" Amara was shocked but stayed calm. "I'll make something else, Mama." Chuka just nodded and looked away. He didn't defend her. That night, Amara cried quietly in the bathroom. She didn't want Chuka to see her pain, but she asked herself, is this what marriage is supposed to feel like? Later that week, Mama Chuka started rearranging the house, throwing away things Amara bought with her own money. She even told a neighbor, "I don't know what my son saw in that girl. She's not wife material." Amara felt small, alone, invisible, but she was not weak. Something deep inside her started to grow, something that whispered, "You cannot let this continue." One evening, Chuka came home from work and saw his mother and Amara arguing in the kitchen. Amara had asked Mama politely not to leave raw meat on the counter, especially with flies everywhere. But Mama took it as an insult. "So now you're teaching me how to cook, eh?" "Me? That raised 3 children on her own? You think you're better than me? Mama shouted. Amara stood quietly, trying not to cry. Chuka stepped in and looked straight at Amara. What is wrong with you, Amara? Must you always talk back? She's my mother. Amara felt like something broke inside her. Chuka didn't even ask what happened. He just believed his mother. Again. Later that night, she told him, Chuka, I'm trying, but your mother doesn't like me. She makes it hard. Instead of holding her or listening, he said, You're always looking for problems. Mama is just being herself. Respect her and things will be fine. Amara went to bed with tears in her eyes. The man she married didn't see her pain. And worse, he didn't seem to care. The next morning, Amara woke up early to prepare breakfast. She was tired, but she wanted to avoid another fight. She boiled plantains, fried eggs, and arranged the table nicely. Mama Chuka walked in and sniffed. Fried eggs again? This girl is too lazy to pound yam, but she wants to eat like queen. Amara finally spoke. Mama, I cook every day. I clean. I do my best. What else do you want from me? Mama's eyes widened. You dare raise your voice at me? I'm not shouting, Amara said quietly, but I'm a human being too. I deserve some respect. Chuka walked in just then. What's going on again? Mama ran to him and started crying fake tears. Your wife just insulted me. She said I'm a bad mother. Chuka turned sharply. Amara, apologize to my mother right now. Amara looked at him. I didn't say that. I only told her I deserve respect. Chuka didn't listen. He picked up his car keys. When I come back, I expect to hear that you've apologized. He slammed the door and left. Amara sat down slowly, hands shaking. She had never felt so alone in her life, but something had changed. She had stood up for herself just a little, and even though no one clapped or supported her, it was the first time she chose herself over silence. The house felt like a prison. Amara moved through it like a visitor, not a wife. Mama Chuka walked around like the queen of the home, while Amara tiptoed around her like a maid. One day, after sweeping the whole house and washing clothes, Amara took a walk to the small shop near their street. She needed a break, even if just for 10 minutes. At the shop, she met Ada, an old classmate she hadn't seen in years. Ada was surprised to see her and said, Amara, you don't look like yourself. What happened? Amara tried to smile, but her eyes gave her away. She broke down and told Ada everything how Mama Chuka insulted her daily, how Chuka never stood by her, and how tired she felt. Ada hugged her and said softly, My friend, no marriage is perfect, but this is not love. You need to start thinking about what makes you happy. That night, Amara didn't sleep much. She kept replaying Ada's words in her head. For the first time, she asked herself, if I wasn't married to Chuka, would I still be this sad every day? A few days later, Amara received a letter from her mother in her village. She sat quietly on the bed and read it slowly. Amara, my daughter, I hope you're eating well and smiling like you used to. We miss you. I don't know what's happening, but I feel it in my spirit my child is not happy. If your heart is tired, come home. There is no shame in choosing peace over pain. Tears rolled down Amara's face. Mama Chuka knocked on the door without waiting and barged in. Are you crying again? You're always crying. Are you the first person to marry? Amara quickly wiped her eyes and stood up. She didn't reply. She simply folded the letter and placed it under her pillow. That evening, she packed a small bag. Nothing too big, just a few clothes, her phone charger, and the letter from her mother. She wasn't planning to leave that night, but she needed a plan. Her heart was tired, and her strength was running low. For the first time, she no longer felt guilty for thinking about leaving. She felt free. The next morning, Chuka noticed Amara was unusually quiet. She didn't speak much during breakfast and avoided eye contact. Mama Chuka, as usual, didn't care. She talked loudly about how some women don't know how to behave in their husband's house. After Chuka left for work, Mama found the small travel bag Amara had hidden in their room. She opened it and saw folded clothes and the letter from Amara's mother. With a smirk, she waited until evening. When Chuka returned, she stormed into the living room with the bag in her hand. "Your wife is planning to run away," Mama shouted. "Look at her things. She's probably going to meet another man." Amara froze. "That's not true," Amara cried out. "I just wanted to visit my mother. I haven't been home in months." "Then why hide it?" Mama asked, raising her voice. Chuka looked confused but then turned to Amara. "Why didn't you tell me?" Amara's voice trembled. "Would you have listened?" Chuka dropped the bag on the floor and walked away. "I'm tired. All this drama is too much." Once again, he refused to take her side, and Amara's heart broke a little more. That night, Amara sat outside on the small bench beside the house. The moon was out and the street was quiet. She dialed her mother's number. "Mama," she said softly. "My daughter," her mother answered, her voice full of warmth. "Are you okay?" Amara couldn't speak for a few seconds. Her throat was tight. Finally, she whispered, "Mama, I want to come home." Her mother didn't ask too many questions. She simply said, "Come, we will make room for you." After the call, Amara felt lighter. She didn't know if she was making the right decision, but she knew she couldn't stay much longer. Not like this. Inside the house, Mama Chuka was still complaining loudly. Chuka sat in front of the TV, pretending not to hear. Amara looked at them from the door. She wondered how love could feel so lonely. That night, before sleeping, she stared at her wedding photo on the wall. The girl in that picture had hope in her eyes. Now, she had a plan. The next morning, Amara woke up early. The sun hadn't risen yet. She quietly dressed and tiptoed to the wardrobe. With slow hands, she folded a few clothes and put them in the same small bag Mama Chuka had found earlier. She didn't take much, just what she needed to feel like herself again. Chuka was still asleep. Mama Chuka too. The house was finally quiet, and for the first time in a long time, Amara felt like she could breathe. She looked around the room one last time. Her eyes paused on the framed wedding picture on the wall. She walked over and gently removed it, placing it face down on the dresser. She wasn't leaving to punish anyone. She was leaving to save herself. Just before stepping out, she wrote a small note. "Chuka, I loved you with everything I had. But love should not feel like pain every day. I'm going home. Maybe this time someone will notice I'm gone." Then she quietly walked out the door. By the time Chuka woke up, the sun was already high. He stretched and looked around, surprised Amara wasn't beside him. He went to the kitchen, but she wasn't there either. "Mama, have you seen Amara?" he asked. Mama Chuka looked up from her chair, frowning. "She left? Maybe she finally went to where she belongs." Chuka looked confused. He searched the Hausino sign of Amara. That's when he saw the letter on the table. He opened it slowly and read it twice. His chest felt heavy. He called her phone, but it rang and rang no answer. "Why didn't she tell me she was serious?" he whispered. Mama Chuka didn't seem to care. She was already in the kitchen, humming and stirring a pot of soup. Chuka sat on the couch, staring at nothing. For the first time, the house felt empty, too quiet, too cold. He didn't realize how much space Amara filled in his life until she was no longer there to fill it. Amara arrived at her mother's home just before sunset. The dusty village road felt familiar beneath her feet. As the bus drove off, she stood there quietly with her bag, taking in the peaceful air. Her mother came running from the front yard, arms wide open. "Amara, my child!" she cried, pulling her daughter into a warm hug. Amara broke down. For the first time in a long time, she cried not out of pain, but from relief. Her mother didn't ask her too many questions. She didn't judge. She just held her close. That night, Amara sat on the old wooden bench outside the house. The stars above her felt brighter than they ever did in the city. Her younger cousins came around, excited to see her. "Auntie Amara, are you staying for long?" one of them asked. She smiled softly. Maybe for a while. Inside, her mother warmed some soup and placed it gently in front of her. "Eat, my daughter. Rest. We will talk tomorrow." For the first time in many nights, Amara slept without fear or tears. Back in the city, Chuka walked around the house like a lost man. It had been 2 days since Amara left, and things felt strange. Mama Chuka acted like nothing happened. She cleaned, cooked, and sat in her usual spot, talking loudly on the phone. But Chuka was starting to notice some things, small things. No one laughed in the house anymore. The smell of Amara's cooking was gone. His work shirts were not ironed. His favorite mug was missing. Amara used to serve him tea in it every morning. He walked into their bedroom and saw the empty space on the wall where the wedding photo used to hang. He sighed deeply. That night, he sat at the edge of the bed, holding her note again. Her words kept repeating in his head. "Maybe this time someone will notice I'm gone." He did notice. But was it too late? The longer Amara stayed away, the more uncomfortable things became for Mama Chuka. At first, she enjoyed having the house to herself. But soon, she began to struggle. Chuka no longer came home with a smile. He barely spoke. He ate quietly, often skipping dinner altogether. Mama noticed the shirts piling up and the dishes unwashed. One afternoon, she called from the kitchen. "Chuka, are you not going to eat?" "I made egusi." "I'm not hungry," he replied coldly. She frowned. "What's wrong with you these days? You act like you're the only one who's ever had a wife." Chuka stood from the couch. "Mama, do you know Amara never shouted at you, no matter what you did?" Mama scoffed. "She had no manners, always acting like this house was hers." Chuka sighed. "It was hers, Mama. It was ours." He walked away and closed the door to his room. For the first time, Mama Chuka began to feel something she hadn't felt before regret. But her pride was too strong to let her admit it. Back in the village, Amara had started to feel like herself again. She helped her mother at the small vegetable farm, laughed with the neighbors, and even began writing in her old journal again. One afternoon, while sitting under the mango tree, her mother joined her with 2 cups of zobo drink. "You're smiling again, my daughter," Mama said gently. Amara nodded. I didn't realize how much of myself I was losing in that house. Her mother placed a hand on hers. "Marriage is not supposed to erase you. It should complete you," Amara sighed. "I love Chuka so much, but I was drowning in that house, Mama." "You still love him?" "I think so, but love is not enough when you're the only one fighting for peace." They sat in silence, the breeze blowing gently through the leaves. That evening, Amara wrote in her journal, "Day by day, I'm healing. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but today I feel peace." And that was a good place to start. One Saturday morning, Amara was helping her mother fry akara when she heard the sound of a car outside. She wiped her hands and stepped out to see a familiar face. It was Chuka. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes searched for hers, and when they met, he looked down. "Amara, I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. She didn't respond immediately. Her heart was beating fast. She hadn't expected to see him not so soon. "I came to check on you," Chuka continued. "The house is empty without you. Mama, she's different too, quiet." Amara folded her arms. "Now you notice? I didn't know how much I was hurting you. I kept thinking you were overreacting, but you weren't. I was wrong." Her mother watched from the doorway but said nothing. Amara looked into Chuka's eyes. "You let her break me, Chuka. Every day I begged for your support, and you gave me silence." Chuka nodded. "I know, and I regret it. I don't expect you to come back right now. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I failed you." Amara didn't cry. She didn't yell. She simply said, "I need time." And Chuka, with a heavy heart, nodded and got back in his car. Back in the city, Mama Chuka sat on the front steps, waiting for Chuka to return. When she saw his face, she knew the visit didn't go as she hoped. "She refused, didn't she?" she asked. Chuka looked at her and said nothing. He walked past her into the house. Mama followed behind him. "Chuka, you know how women are. They're emotional. She'll come back soon." Chuka turned to face her. "Mama, stop." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He spoke slowly. "Stop pretending. You bullied her. You insulted her every single day. And I let you. That's my shame to carry. But yours is not even hidden." Mama Chuka's mouth fell open, but no words came out. Chuka continued, "You came into my home and tore it apart with your words. Now I live in silence. You wanted the house to yourself, now you have it." He walked into his room and shut the door. Mama Chuka stood there, stunned. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just alone. She was the reason for it. Days turned into weeks, and Amara stayed in the village. She helped her mother plant maize, fetch water, and sell vegetables at the market. Each day brought her a little more joy. She laughed again. She danced when music played on the radio. She even helped a young girl in the village who was planning her wedding, giving her tips and encouragement. Her mother watched her closely one morning as they peeled cassava. "You're glowing again," Mama said with a soft smile. Amara looked up and smiled back. "I feel stronger, Mama, like I'm slowly becoming whole again." She started sewing dresses to pass the time and even got a few orders from church women in the village. Her healing became her business. Her pain became her purpose. One evening, she wrote again in her journal, I may not have everything figured out, but I now know this. I am enough, and I will never let anyone make me feel small again. This was not just rest. It was growth. It was a Sunday morning when Amara received a surprising phone call. It was Mama Chuka. She hesitated before answering, but curiosity won. "Hello," she said. There was silence at first. Then came a voice that sounded softer. "Amara, it's me. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but please, let me speak." Amara didn't say anything, but she didn't end the call either. "I treated you badly," Mama Chuka said. "I thought I was protecting my son, but I see now I was destroying his happiness and yours. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm sorry." Tears welled up in Amara's eyes, not from pain, but from shock. The same woman who once called her worthless was now asking for forgiveness. "Mama," she said quietly, "you hurt me deeply." "I know," Mama Chuka replied, "and I carry that guilt every day. I just hope that one day you'll find it in your heart to heal." They sat in silence for a few seconds before Amara whispered, "Thank you for calling." It wasn't a full repair, but it was a start. It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon when Amara heard someone knock at the gate. Her little cousin ran to check and came back shouting, "Auntie, somebody is here to see you." Amara wiped her hands and stepped outside, and there stood Chuka. He looked neater this time, his eyes clearer. In his hands, he held a small food flask. "I brought you okra soup," he said, trying to smile. Amara stared at him surprised. "Okra soup? I watched a YouTube video," he said, chuckling nervously. "I wanted to cook for you for once." Amara let out a small laugh. "Wow, Chuka in the kitchen." He stepped closer, his voice turning serious. "Amara, I know you're doing better. I can see it in your face. But I want to do better too. I want to fix what I broke." Amara looked into his eyes. She saw honesty, but she also remembered her pain. "You can't just bring soup and expect everything to change," she said calmly. "I know," he replied. "I'm not here to beg you to come home. I'm here to show you I'm learning. Whether you come back or not, I want to grow for you and for me." It was the most mature thing she had ever heard him say. She didn't give him an answer yet, but she offered him a chair. And for the first time in months, they sat side by side, talking like two people trying to start again. After Chuka's visit, Amara began to think deeply about her next steps. Her peace in the village was priceless, but her heart still held a soft spot for the man she once loved. That weekend, Chuka returned home and sat down with Mama Chuka. "Mama," he said gently, "thank you for calling Amara. I know it wasn't easy." Mama nodded slowly. She deserved to hear the truth. Chuka took a deep breath. "I want to make things right, but I can't do it alone." Mama looked at her son and said, "If she ever comes back, I promise to treat her like my own daughter. I pushed her away, but I'm ready to change too." Meanwhile, Amara sat with her mother in the village, braiding her cousin's hair. "Mama," she said, "I don't know if I'm ready to go back, but I can see he's trying." Her mother smiled. "Sometimes people don't know your value until you walk away. You gave him that chance to see." "Do you think people can truly change?" Amara asked. Her mother nodded. "Yes, but only if they truly want to." That night, Amara didn't make a decision yet. But for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this story could still have a new ending. 2 weeks passed. Chuka continued calling Amara never to pressure her, just to check in. Sometimes he would send short voice notes saying, "I hope you're smiling today," or "I'm learning how to make a goosey soup next." Amara listened quietly. She didn't always reply, but she noticed something different. He wasn't begging, he wasn't pretending, he was trying. One morning she told her mother, "I want to go back for a few days. Not to stay, just to see." Her mother paused, then nodded. "Go, but go with your eyes open. Don't let love blind you again. Let it guide you this time." Amara packed her bag with calm hands. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't scared. She was stronger now. When she got to the city, Chuka opened the door with surprise. "You came." "I'm not back," she said quickly. "I'm visiting." He smiled. "Even a visit is more than I hoped for." Amara stepped in slowly. The house looked different, cleaner, brighter. Her favorite painting was hung in the hallway again. Her old flower vase sat on the center table. It felt like a home trying to remember its heart. That evening, Amara was sitting in the kitchen when she heard the front door open. Mama Chuka had returned from visiting her sister. She entered and saw Amara. There was a long pause. Then Mama Chuka said quietly, "Welcome, my daughter." Amara looked up. "Good evening, Mama." Mama walked closer. "I know I don't deserve this, but thank you for coming." Even just for a short visit. Amara didn't know what to say. Mama continued, "Since you left, this house has been empty. I see now that being right all the time doesn't mean being kind. I was wrong and I'm sorry." Amara's eyes welled up with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Mama held her hands gently. "If you give me another chance, I'll show you I've changed too. I don't want to be the reason my son loses his peace, or you." Later that night, as Amara lay on the bed in her old room, she stared at the ceiling, thinking, this wasn't just about marriage anymore. It was about healing for everyone. And maybe, just maybe, it had begun. Amara stayed for a few days, not to rush anything, but to observe. She watched how Chuka behaved, how Mama Chuka spoke, and how the house felt. There were small changes everywhere. One morning, Amara woke up to find Chuka already in the kitchen, trying to make pap and akara. The oil was too hot, and the pap was lumpy, but he smiled as he struggled. "I'm not perfect," he said, laughing, "but I want to learn." Amara laughed too. "You've come a long way." Mama Chuka also surprised her. She offered to help Amara with her laundry and even complimented the way she arranged her clothes. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. At dinner, Mama said, "Amara, I see the way you hold this family together. I was too proud to see it before." Chuka added, "And I was too blind to protect you from the pain you didn't deserve." Amara didn't speak right away. She just looked at both of them and nodded slowly. "Words are a start," she said softly, "but I'm watching." This time, she wasn't walking on eggshells. This time, she was walking on her own terms. On Sunday afternoon, Chuka invited his uncle and a few elders from both sides of the family. He didn't tell Amara everything beforehand, just said, "I want us to talk as a family." When everyone gathered in the sitting room, Chuka stood up. "I call this meeting," he said, "because I failed my wife." Gasps filled the room. Even Mama Chuka sat up straight. "I let my mother hurt her," Chuka continued. "I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I want to make things right." He looked over at Amara, who sat quietly beside her mother. "I didn't just hurt her. I disrespected her parents too. For that, I apologize to you all." The elders nodded in approval. Then Mama Chuka stood up. "I too have something to say. I made Amara feel like a stranger. I judged her without cause, but since she left, I've learned, and I'm ready to treat her like my own daughter if she will let me." The room fell silent. Amara took a deep breath and stood. "I'm not perfect either," she said, her voice steady. "But I gave my all, and now I will only give it to people who see my worth." She looked at Chuka and Mama. "If you both truly mean these words, then let your actions speak louder." Everyone clapped. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was a real one, and that mattered more. Amara decided to stay a few more weeks, not because she had fully forgiven, but because she wanted to see if the changes were real. Each day felt different. Chuka made time to talk to her, not just about marriage, but about how she felt, what she wanted, and what she had been holding inside all along. One morning, they walked to the market together. It was something small, but Amara noticed the difference. He didn't walk ahead of her. He held her hand. He laughed at her jokes. He bought her suya, even though he didn't like pepper. Later that day, they sat together under the mango tree behind the house. "I didn't know how much I took you for granted," Chuka said. Amara looked at him. "I didn't know how much I lost myself until I left." They both fell silent for a while. "But you came back," he said softly. "I came to see if love could still live here," she replied. "Not just for you, for me too." It wasn't a full yes, but it wasn't a no either. It was something new, a beginning. That night, Amara opened her old journal. As she flipped through the pages, one small folded note fell out. It was a letter she had written weeks ago and she never sent. It read, "To the man I married, I once thought you were my safe place. But every day, your silence told me I wasn't seen, wasn't heard. If you ever look around one day and wonder where I went, just remember, I was always there, until I couldn't be anymore." She read it twice. Then she quietly tore it up. Not because her pain wasn't real, but because she was no longer that woman. That broken, crying girl was healing. She still had scars, but now she also had a voice, and she was learning how to use it. The next morning, Mama Chuka knocked gently on Amara's door. "Can I take you to the market today?" she asked. "I want to show you my favorite place for fresh tomatoes." Amara smiled, a little surprised. "All right, Mama." They walked side by side, not as enemies, but as two women trying to understand each other again. Not everything was perfect, but healing had begun. And love was growing again. A few days later, Chuka asked Amara to follow him to a couples seminar organized by their church. At first, she hesitated. "Are we ready for that?" she asked. Chuka looked her in the eyes. "We may not be perfect, but we're trying. Let's learn how to do better together." Amara agreed. At the seminar, the pastor spoke about listening, respect, and protecting your partner, even from your own family. Every word felt personal. Amara saw couples nodding, crying, holding hands. She glanced at Chukahe, was focused, taking notes. After the session, he turned to her and said, "I never protected you the way I should have. That won't happen again." She didn't say much, but her heart softened. That evening, They sat in their living room. It was quiet but peaceful. Chuka reached for her hand. "Let me earn your trust again, Amara. No pressure, no rush. Just allow me." Amara squeezed his hand gently. One step at a time. Something had changed in Mama Chuka too. She now greeted Amara in the morning with a smile and even helped clean the kitchen without complaining. She asked for recipes Amara used before and even sat to learn how Amara prepared her famous okra soup. One day, while peeling potatoes together, Mama said, "You know, I've never had a daughter before. I didn't know how to share my son, but I see now I wasn't losing him. I was gaining another child." Amara didn't know what to say. Tears filled her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. She didn't want to be too quick to trust, but her heart was open. Later, Mama Chuka joined a local women's group for elderly women and started attending weekly meetings. She came home with new things to talk about, things that didn't involve criticizing Amara. Chuka noticed it too. "Mama is changing," he said one night. "I didn't believe she could, but she's trying." Amara replied, "Trying is enough for now." In that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. It was a Saturday afternoon, and the house felt warm not from the heat, but from the joy inside it. Amara was in the kitchen, teaching Mama Chuka how to bake meat pie. Chuka sat nearby, pretending to read a newspaper but secretly watching them. "Mama, not too much butter," Amara said, laughing. Mama raised an eyebrow. "Ah, that's how we did it in my time. You young people like measuring too much." They both laughed genuine laughter, not forced, not polite. Chuka walked over and stole a piece of the dough. "Let me test it for quality control." "Go away, I beg," Amara and Mama said at the same time, then burst into more laughter. That day, the house felt alive again. Later in the evening, Amara looked around and smiled. "I used to pray for this," she whispered. Chuka, who overheard her, said, "I'm glad you didn't stop praying. I'm glad you came back." She nodded. "Me too. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was becoming a beautiful one." The next week, Ada, Amara's old friend from the village, came to visit. She had been the first person Amara opened up to when things were hard. "I had to come and see for myself," Ada said, hugging her. "You look happy." Amara smiled. "It's been a long journey." They sat and caught up, and Ada finally asked, "So, are you going to stay?" Amara went quiet for a moment. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "I love him. I see his effort. I see Mama's change. But I'm still learning to trust again. I'm still learning me." Ada nodded. "That's fair. Just don't lose the woman you found in the village. She's strong, she's wise." Later that evening, Ada left, and Amara sat with her journal. She wrote, "The old me would have rushed back with hope. The new me is walking carefully with wisdom. And that's okay." She closed the book, looked around her home, and whispered to herself, "Let's see what tomorrow brings." 2 months had passed since Amara returned. One morning, Mama Chuka's distant cousin came to visit. She was loud, rude, and sharp-tongued, just like Mama used to be. From the moment she arrived, she began complaining. "This house is too quiet," she said. "Where's the man of the house? And you, Amara, how? Are you running things here?" Amara stayed calm. She simply smiled and offered her food. But the real test came when the visitor whispered to Mama Chuka, loud enough for Amara to hear, "You let this girl control your home now." Everyone froze. Mama Chuka stood up slowly and said, "She doesn't control anything. She builds this home with love and patience. If you can't respect her, you're not welcome here." The visitor laughed awkwardly but said nothing more. Amara was stunned. Later that night, she sat beside Mama in the sitting room. "You defended me," she said softly. Mama Chuka looked at her and smiled. It was long overdue. That moment told Amara more than any long speech ever could. This change wasn't for show. It was real. One evening, after dinner, Chuka handed Amara a small box. "No, it's not jewelry," he said, smiling. "Open it." Amara opened the box and found a tiny handmade card. On the front, it said, "To my teacher." Inside, Chuka had written, "Thank you for teaching me what love really means. Not loud words, but quiet strength. Not control, but care. Not fear, but respect." Amara's eyes filled with tears. It was simple, honest, from the heart. "I know it'll take time," Chuka said, "but I want to walk every step with you." Amara closed the box, held it close to her chest, and nodded. This means more than diamonds," she whispered. In that moment, she felt seen. Not as just a wife, not as a daughter-in-law, but as Amaratha woman who fought for her peace and found it again. One afternoon, Amara received a phone call from her former boss at the tailoring shop she once worked at before marriage. "Amara, I heard you're back in the city," the woman said warmly. "We're opening a new branch, and I'd love to have you come lead it. You've always had the gift." Amara was shocked. "You want me to lead it?" "Yes," the woman replied. "You're calm, creative, and hardworking. We need someone like you." That evening, she told Chuka about the call. He didn't frown. He didn't say no. Instead, he smiled and said, "You should go for it. I'll support you." Amara looked at him, surprised. "You mean it?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Your dreams matter too, and it's time the world sees the star I've come to know." She felt her heart swell. This was the support she once begged for, and now he was giving it without being asked. Later that night, as she folded her clothes, she whispered to herself, "I'm not just someone's wife, I'm me, and I can shine too." Weeks passed. The house was different, now full of light, laughter, and balance. One Sunday after church, Chuka brought out a camera. "Let's take a photo," he said. "A new one. Not the wedding photo from years ago. Something real." Amara wore a soft pink gown. Mama Chuka dressed in her best lace wrapper, and Chuka stood tall beside them. They all stood in front of the house. The photographer counted, 1, 2, 3, smile. Click. It was a simple photo, but it meant everything. In that frame was not just a family, but a story of change, healing, and grace. Afterward, Mama Chuka touched Amara's shoulder gently. "Thank you for not giving up on us," she said. Amara looked at her, eyes soft. "Thank you for learning to see me." Chuka put his arms around both of them. "Let's keep building together." That night, they hung the photo in the center of the living room, right where the old wedding photo used to be. This time, it wasn't about how things started. It was about how far they'd come. At her new job, Amara quickly became loved by her team. She taught younger tailors with patience and confidence. Her designs stood out. Her energy lifted the room. One day, her boss invited her to speak at a women's event. "Me?" Amara asked, surprised. "What will I say?" "Just share your story," her boss replied. "Your strength speaks louder than you know." At the event, Amara stood in front of a small crowd of women young, old, married, single. She spoke from the heart. No notes, no fancy words. "I was once a woman who cried herself to sleep in a house that didn't feel like mine. I kept quiet because I thought that's what a good wife does. But silence nearly broke me. I had to walk away to find my voice." There was silence in the room. Some women wiped their eyes. Others nodded slowly. Amara smiled. "Now I know peace is not a gift from others. It's something we choose for ourselves." The applause was soft but full of meaning. She had found her voice. And this time, it would never be silent again. That evening, Amara returned home to a quiet house. Chuka was making dinner. Mama Chuka was sitting outside, knitting and humming a soft tune. Amara stepped into the kitchen and hugged Chuka from behind. "I spoke today," she said. "In front of women, I told our story." Chuka turned around, surprised. "How did it feel?" "Freeing," she whispered. "Like I stepped into who I'm meant to be." They sat down later to eat. Over dinner, Chuka gently placed his hand on hers. "I know I hurt you, Amara, but if you're willing, I'd like us to renew our vows. Not because it's tradition, but because we're not who we were before." Amara looked at him, her eyes soft but steady. "I need time to think," she said honestly. "Not because I don't love you, but because I want to make this choice with a full heart, not a fearful one." Chuka nodded. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait." That night, as Amara lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, thinking. This time, love would not be a cage. It would be a choice. Hers. Days passed, and Amara took her to no pressure, no rush. She went to work, spent time with friends, and continued journaling each night. One evening, she sat by the window, watching the rain fall. Her heart felt calm, not because everything was perfect, but because she was no longer afraid. She picked up her pen and wrote, "I once believed that staying silent was the price of love. Now I know love listens, love changes, love respects. I am ready to love again because this time I love myself too." She closed her journal and smiled. The next morning, she woke up early, dressed simply, and went to the kitchen where Chuka was frying plantain. "I'm ready," she said. He turned around. "Ready?" "To start over," she replied. "Not as the girl you married years ago, but as the woman I've become." Chuka didn't speak right away. His eyes were full. Then he held her hand. "Then let's build something better, something real." And just like that, a new chapter of their love began. Not out of habit, but out of choice. A month later, the living room was filled with close friends, family, and a few neighbors. There was no big church, no long list of guest-just people who had witnessed their journey. Chuka stood in a cream-colored native outfit. Amara wore a simple sky-blue dress with soft beads on her wrist. Mama Chuka stood beside them, wiping tears before they even started. Chuka took her hands and said, "I once made a vow I didn't fully understand, but today I vow with open eyes and a ready heart to protect, listen, and walk beside you in truth." Amara smiled. "I vow to love you not with silence but with strength, to forgive, grow, and build something better than before." Tears fell, but they were happy ones. After the short ceremony, they danced. Mama Chuka joined them, laughing like a girl. At one point, she whispered in Amara's ear, "You didn't just save this marriage, you saved me too." Amara nodded. "We all had to grow, and now we rise together." The photo from that day now hung beside the first one. 2 pictures, 1 story. A story of love broken but not destroyed, and love rebuilt with choice, respect, and grace. Weeks turned into months, and the peace in the house grew stronger. There were still little arguments, sometimes over burnt food or forgotten chores, but the difference now was clear. Everyone listened. Mama Chuka became more than just a mother-in-law. She became a real mother figure to Amara. They cooked together, prayed together, and even laughed about the past. One evening, as the sun set, Chuka and Amara sat in the backyard. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Chuka asked. Amara nodded. "Sometimes I can't believe this is the same house I once wanted to run away from." He reached for her hand. "You changed everything." She looked at him, smiling. "No, we did." Inside the house, Mama Chuka was setting the table for dinner, Amara's favorite, jollof rice and fried goat meat. The house no longer felt heavy. It felt like home, a real home, built not with bricks alone, but with forgiveness, growth, and love. One Saturday morning, Amara stood in front of a group of young married women at a small workshop. She had been invited to speak again, this time as a mentor. "I want to tell you something I learned the hard way," she said. "Love is not supposed to break you. Marriage is not a war, and silence is not strength." She looked around the room. All eyes were on her. If you ever feel like you're losing yourself in someone's home, remember you have the right to take your peace back. And if they truly love you, they'll meet you halfway. After the event, a young woman walked up to her, teary-eyed. "Your story gave me courage," she said. "Thank you." Amara smiled and hugged her gently. "You're not alone." Later that night, she returned home to Chuka and Mama Chuka, waiting with cake and balloons. "What's this?" Amara laughed. "We're celebrating you," Chuka said, "for being strong, for coming back, and for reminding us all what love should look like." As they took a family photo together laughing, arms wrapped around each other, Amara realized something beautiful. She had found her way through pain, through silence, and through heartbreak, into a life she chose, a home that chose her back, and a future that finally felt like hers. The end.